Welcome to the Sacral Chakra Activation. This is a re-recording of the Zoom conference that we had on Sunday, October 21st. Accidentally did not hit record when that conversation began. So here we are, inviting in the Sacral Chakra. I'm wearing orange, the color of the Sacral Chakra. And we can just kind of weave into our seats here, gently feeling into the zone of the sacral chakra, the home of the ovaries, of the uterus, of the kidneys and bladder. This is the area about 3 fingertips below, 3 fingers below the belly button. Okay, down to the pubic bone. The bladder sits right on top of the pubic bone. And then down to the sacrum. So it's the lower triangular energetic here of the womb space. The creative cauldron of life. Life being creation. Life being the creation of human beings. Creation of the earth, creating herself through all the diversity of species and pollination, and we know how mammals do it, and the birds and the bees have their own way of procreation. But here in the womb space, we have the life force that gives the miracle, that holds the container for that miracle, that spark of creation to grow new life. And we can utilize the womb space to grow human life and to grow ideas, to seed, to fertilize creative projects, activating the womb space as a creation zone of creativity, right? It's activating the energetics of being creator, okay, or co-creator, creator and co-creator. We collaborate in relationships, in partnerships of all kind, business, romantic, all sorts of relationships. All the relationships govern. This chakra governs all of the relationships of our life, okay? And so from the root chakra, which is a singularity, it's the point, the orientation of the body in that very kind of the elimination portal, the manifestation portal. Here, this is the creation portal. We create and manifest, right? We have to go through that birthing process. This is the fertilization zone where then we birth what we've grown, okay, through that root chakra zone as an offering, right? As an offering of our creative life force energy to life itself, to earth, to this evolutionary journey of consciousness in the body. And that is what we activate with this energetic of the sacral chakra, is that weave. We're moving from that singular point of the root into the duality, the two polarities, the two magnets that draw together and through their weave create the life force energy for that kundalini, that sleeping serpent, to move. So this is the energetics of movement, of change, of transformation. This is where the alchemy really starts to create action and activity through the system. Okay? So the sacral chakra is governed by Pluto, right? Pluto being the subconscious, the subconscious of the soul. And we know that through the, kind of studies of the conscious and subconscious, the mechanics of the mind, that 99% of our consciousness is under, like, the iceberg that's under the water, right? We only see the tip of the iceberg on top of the surface, but we know 99% of the iceberg is under the sea, right? And that's kind of how the subconscious mind works. It's the majority of what's running the programs of our mind field, of our reality. And the sacral chakra is the zone of emotions. So we're working with the subconscious emotional drive. That is that Plutonian energy. Pluto rules Scorpio, okay? And we all have Scorpio in our chart. There's no governance and ownership of signs in the zodiac. We all are all of it. We all have subconscious. We all have Scorpio energy, 8th house energy in our makeup, okay? In our archetypal energetic makeup. And what we are working with unlocking here is those latent, deep potentials that are so covered and buried within our subconscious. And those latent potentials are actually our greatest gift. Yet the operating system, the mechanism of the mind, often is just overriding, habituated thinking, acting, behaving, that we don't actually often get the opportunity to deep dive into these subconscious waters and do that deep extraction. So the process, we can go back to is, with these first chakras, we're talking about the first 7 years of our life. Okay, primarily is when the development of these chakras really incarnate. The sacral chakra, we're really going to go into this energetic of the gestation period. So when we study together in our one-to-ones, we'll be looking at the gene keys Venus sequence, actually, and retrace back to the 9-month gestation period when you were in utero, in your mother's womb, and learn about the shadow, gift, and enlightenment energetic that was grown into your consciousness from the very first cellular development. And when we can unlock those primal, primary, deep, like it's almost impossible, not impossible, definitely not, but from logic, there's no pathway to get to that depth of subconscious. It's just so much a part of our cellular replication, we don't even know it's happening. We have no memory of it. Although you can do regressions, tap into that hypnotic state, and access it. So it is accessible, but just not from conscious logic thinking. Okay, this is not like a thinking process that we can get to this deep layer. It's experiential, it's a journey, it's deep process. And anybody with strong Scorpio energies in their chart know this process intimately. So we all know this process intimately because what? Jupiter has been in Scorpio since October 10th, 2017, right? We're 2018 now. Yeah, October 10th, 2017. And the day that Jupiter moved into Scorpio was when the whole Harvey Weinstein information came out. The Me Too movement that was started back in 2007, 2008 by an African-American woman actually really amplified, took hold, and it was a domino after that with all of this sexual misconduct cases coming to the surface, right? So there is a lot of, in this sacral energy, we are working with distortions of sexuality or perceived distortions of sexuality. Any place that we've given our energy over without boundaries, and any ways that it was taken crossing boundaries, okay? This is all the sacral works with boundaries, with vulnerability and boundaries. There is this balancing energetic that goes within the sea of the sacral, okay? It is that vulnerability of the femininity, opening, nurturing, nourishing from the womb to the child directly through the umbilical cord, right? So there is this like deeply nourishing, like life force giving energy. Yet there is, I mean, in that pure unconditional, just like biological giving that's just happening. Yet what we need to learn in the application of this chakra is boundaries, right? Holding safe container for yourself to express your creativity and cultivating that sacred cauldron of self-expression that is aligned, is honorable, is holding the memory, I would say, of the sacred sisterhood, and holding that container of really being for the other in that field of respect, in that field of support, in that field of sacred divine nurturance of the feminine life force energy giving to the world, okay? So I don't want to get too off track. I'm kind of talking in circles here. So when we are talking about the two currents of the energy field that is activated from the singular to the two, we're talking about the movement of the Ida and the Pingala, okay? This is talked about in like the Egyptian mystery schools as the black cobra and the gold cobra, okay? The black cobra being the feminine, the darkness, that depth, mysterious internal world, and the Pingala being the light of consciousness of the sun, the brightness of the day, those masculine daytime forces, merging with that dark, feminine, internal night force, feminine, intuitive, and it's the movement of those two forces within the Jed, the central pranic tube, or what we call in like Tantra Yoga from the East, from India, is the Sushumna, is the central pranic tube. We call the feminine force the Ida, the masculine force the Pingala. And we activated that in the meditation link that I sent you. It's the activation of these two forces that create aliveness and energy within the chakra system, within the body, within the spinal column, within the muscle tissue, within the visceral tissue, the organ tissue, activating the endocrine system. Okay? So this is the necessary movement. This is the necessary working with the energetics of polarity, of magnetism, of positive and negative poles, working those magnetics within the system to create movement, to create friction, okay, to create heat. And that is the heat that's necessary to generate and open and awaken the Kundalini, the sleeping serpent, that storehouse of energy at the base of the spine. So the sacral chakra gets that creative movement, those creative juices flowing. Now, when we're talking about the sacral chakra, we're talking about lunar energy. This is the waters of our body, the waters of the earth, the waters, the oceans of consciousness throughout space, okay? So the woman's body is in biorhythm with the lunar cycles. If we are removed from city light and we are tuned into natural light, the natural lunation cycles, we will bleed every 28 days with the full 28 to 29 days with the full cycle of the moon. So in complete biorhythm, we would bleed with the new moon, and as the full moon we would wax to the full moon would be ovulation, and then the energy would wane to the new moon again, right? And so peak fertility time is from that menstruation window after menstruation to ovulation, a little bit after that ovulation window, and then that last week before the new moon is when you're not fertile. And these are natural rhythms, natural fertility rhythms. Whether you're wanting to plan fertility or to plan not fertility, that is quite the important information for women to really know, right? That we are tuned to these cycles. The more we tune to these cycles, the more those cycles are tuned in with us, right? And it is the activation of that moonlight that activates the pineal gland that sends a signal for fertility, okay? It's that peak, awake, alive, fullness of the womb space for being like highly fertile, right? Okay, so tuning into the lunar cycles is a big part of connecting and activating the sacral chakra, knowing where the moon is. Today, the moon is in Aries. The moon in Aries, what is Aries? It's ruled by Mars. So the moon in Aries might be a little bit more like emotionally overridden by the Mars energy. It's a little bit of a tough placement for the moon, but and then what happens next? It moves into Taurus, where we're having the full moon tomorrow, and the moon is quite happy in Taurus. It is a fixed earth sign, and it is I believe Taurus is registered as a nighttime feminine sign, so the moon is definitely at home there. So knowing the different energetics of the zodiac and of how the moon is transiting the zodiac every 2.5 days or so really gives this personal relationship with the moon. The moon's pulling the tides of the ocean. If you live by the ocean, you're very tuned into the moon because of the rising and falling of the tides, that ebb and flow. And around the new moon, you can see the sea draw back really far. The beach grows huge, right? I believe that happens at the full moon too, but the way the tide really pulls back is dramatic. So this invisible force of the moon on the earth and the moon on us as water beings is a very powerful relationship to cultivate and to activate the knowledge about the position of the moon, making that a part of the daily rhythm of your life. And so when we're talking about water, water is consciousness. Water is memory. And that's what makes Earth so wonderful, is that Earth holds the memory of the whole cosmic story, okay? And our bodies also hold this memory of the whole cosmic story, right? Water, that's what makes Earth just so special and so desired to be protected by multidimensional beings, is that the Earth holds memory. It's a timekeeper. And it's interesting to think about prayer. When we pray with sacred water, holy water, water that's been charged by the sun, by the moon, by your mantras, by your words. We know Dr. Masaru Emoto's wonderful work with researching the effects of word vibration, sound vibration with water, and how the molecular structure under the microscope looked very different based on the different words and tones and expressions used. So through praying through the water and through the phenomenon of the hydrologic cycle, we are given the opportunity to pray, to send prayers, to send intentions through the water and through the magic of the hydrologic cycle, this biological rhythm happening with the water and the planet. Those drops of water become evaporated, become condensed, become rain, flow eventually into the waters, the streams, the lakes, the rivers, eventually into the ocean, where it evaporates and keeps going through that cycle. So literally, our prayer in a single drop of water becomes disseminated over the whole planet. So water carries information, and water has the power to hold intention and to heal within and our whole planet. And it is a way to really activate the sacred connection of the womb space with the prayers for the earth, the prayers for humanity, the prayers for all beings within and on the earth, and all beings connecting to us through the energetics of water. It is a real way to activate. It's essential for carrying messages through the cell membranes. It's the water that connects the information and flows the information through the cells of the body. Water is the fluid that's around and within every particle. So when we're toning ourselves with our thoughts, our words, our actions, our environments, we are literally creating with the mind and the water. We're creating that energetic that becomes what we are, who we are, how we are. And some of this is so deeply subconscious, right? How often are we like consciously thinking the thoughts we're thinking, right? So this is, the sacral chakra is a process of deep journeying, a deep sacred journey into the memory of who we really are, where we've come from, and how to return to the harmonious, loving creation of your womb, inside the womb of the mother, inside the womb of the earth, inside the womb of the cosmos. We talked about in the recording about the sacred circle of the feminine and how we did used to bleed together and cycle together, and the healing techniques of the mothers were passed on in that red tent through songs, through sharing, through creating herbs and poultices and tinctures, through creating the medicines. It was the women who carried these traditions of the healing practices, of the information, the knowledge of the plants and these cycles that we knew when to plant, when to harvest, when to cultivate, when to infuse. And this circle has been broken. And what we are remembering as women is a return to the sacred space, a return to the sacred circle, a return to the sanctity of boundaries for our personal healing time that we need in order to bring the light into the womb through our own energetic body, okay? Through this, our own healing time, release time of the blood, of the, even though some of us have stopped bleeding, some of us still are bleeding, there is a rhythm to this lunar cycle where the sacred ceremony of information being passed on from crone and maga and mother and maiden, okay? This lineage of cycles of time that a woman goes through. Reconnecting that sacred circle of trust, of love, of respect, of sharing, of giving, of receiving, of nurturing and nourishing and healing and bonding, and being in that sacred flow of sisterhood, of womanhood, of lineage. And this is something that we, as women, become space holders for the generations to come, on holding that memory of what having a womb is about. And for me, one of my primary pains in this lifetime, but I think it's one of the woundings since perhaps the Inquisition and domination of the church broke apart these communities and created monarchy, was the loss of the initiation of the puberty rites, the loss of the initiation of womanhood, and how the journey of learning how to be for each other in thought, in word, in action, in space, in conversation, in communication, in relationship has been a learned practice through mistakes in this life, and through a real desire to find and seek the information of how to be a sacred woman holding sacred space for other women in order to hold that sacred space for men. Because the men have been wounded by the breaking of this bond too, even though perhaps it was the men that, demanded worship of a patriarchal God. There was breach of trust and contract along the way among the women too. So there's no innocent or guilty party, right? We're just remembering wholeness and how to bring that back. And the womb is a big part of that. The sacral chakra, the planetary ruler of the sacral chakra, Pluto, as I mentioned, but obviously the moon. And what is the moon? The moon is Cancer, is the astrological sign, or the planetary body of Cancer. And Cancer is the mother. Cancer is the mother. And she is playful. She's funny. She's humorous. She's magic. She likes to dance and play and sing and create in the song of life. And it's silly, it's funny, it's goofy, it's playful, it's joyful, it's feminine. And remembering that playful joy, lift and love and light of womanhood, of being a mother, it has a lot of responsibility, and there is the dark mother as well. I'm talking about the bright and light, but we do have Kali Ma and Sekhmet, who will slay and kill to protect her child, right? If someone crosses that line, she will shake heaven and earth to bring justice, right? So there is the dark mother energy too, and this is the dance of the light and the dark. I'm not going to go so much into Kali Ma and Sekhmet because my journey hasn't been as closely knit. I can't say it hasn't been as closely knit, but I haven't brought that language into my conscious mind as astutely as some of this lighter energy, okay? So we've got Pluto and we've got the moon. We've got the deepest space Plutonian energy in the solar system that we've reached. And then we also have the moon, which is our closest planetary body to us, that gives us this reflection. And what is the moon? I mean, we can look at the moon. She reflects the sun's light, and we can stare at her all night, and she doesn't hurt our eyes. We can literally like stare at the reflection of the sun and just receive those lunar beams into our body, and there's no harm done, right? So lunar charge your crystals. Lunar charge the crystal of your body, of your spine. Walk next to a stream, a lake, a river, the sea, of course. Taking a bath with Epsom salts. Dancing, singing, creating, playing, stream of conscious writing. All of these things activate the sacred flow of the sacral chakra. And I invite you all to perhaps, I did this last May, actually, before a trip to Costa Rica with my mom for this astrology conference. And I had this whole idea that we would do this group performance where we would do our creation stories through dance. So creating like a 3 to 5 minute dance that personifies through movement your creation story. And at the end, chanting VAM, V-A-M, which is the energetic of the sacral chakra, the bija sound tone of the sacral chakra. If you're inspired, motivated to do this kind of exercise, it's profound, it's so fun, it's powerful, and it's very moving, literally, and emotionally. So to actually, through gesture, through movement, through mudra, you can recreate your story, your creation story, and land into the present moment, see where you are in your gesture, and letting that be your creation point for now, and where you're conceiving the new codes from, what that present energetic is, where you're receiving these new codes of all the transits happening in our solar system and beyond. We can't really see the beyond, but we do have the reflection of our solar system and the transits and the lunar transits and the solar transits, and how those are affecting each of us in this very changing time. Where are you now in your creative cauldron stance, in your creative vessel? Are you ready to receive the attunements, to receive the light codes, to receive the information coming from yourself, your soul self, your spirit self, your higher dimensional energy? Are we ready to use the womb to be an activator of energetic light to create our etheric double, the Ka? This is the powers of the sex alchemy that originated through the lineage of the temples of Isis, and also the internal autonomous alchemies through the lineage of Horus. The lineage of Horus was internal activations through the chakra system to build the Ka body through alchemy within oneself and with the elements. alchemy process through the sex magic in the temples of Isis, taught about sacred sexuality, utilizing the relationship of the two to amplify and build energy of one another's ka body. And these were very particular practices and activations that allowed for the energetic to flow up the spine through the cobra and amplify the etheric double. And these are the teachings actually of Yeshua and Mary Magdalene and their love that have been omitted from the sacred texts. There has been a preservation of that knowledge and information through these secret codes that we hold within us, through the memory of the miracle of life on earth. And that miracle of life stores the information. Nothing's lost. Nothing's ever lost. Nothing can ever be destroyed, just transformed. So that's all I'm going to say for today. We did get a little bit more into maybe the story of Yeshua and Mary Magdalene when we were in the recording together on Sunday. But I think that little introduction was enough for now. I do recommend getting the book, The Magdalene Manuscript. The Magdalene Manuscript, Tom Kenyon channeled it with his wife. And it might be an interesting read for you if you want more information on those temples of Isis and Horus. And going into the Egyptian content of the 7 chakras explained as the 7 seals. It's a mirroring mystery school that mirrors the tantric yoga chakra system. So I hope you have really enjoyed this journey talking about the sacral chakra, and I hope that it's stirred up some energy of yummy fertility, orange glow energy, where we're more receptive to invite light in to our bodies, to hold space for life to be created in the most sacred, beautiful, magical, uplifted, nourished and nurtured, loving way by exemplifying beautifully how we do self-love. Okay. Namaste. Love you all very much. Thank you for tuning in and being with me on this journey. Take very good care. Bye-bye.